the Sallie Tomato YouTube channel. I'm Jess, and today I'm going to show you how to make Tripper, a functional backpack that I designed to be used as a diaper bag, a travel bag for students, or anyone that could use a backpack with lots of storage. I'm confident that anyone can make this bag if they want to. It's not a quick sew, however, it's a very functional bag and well worth the time. There are quite a few pieces to cut, which can make this bag seem intimidating, but if you take it one step at a time, the bag will come together before you know it. This backpack offers generous carrying capacity, equipped with convenient side pockets, 2 exterior zipper pockets, a wide opening top, adjustable padded shoulder straps, a carry handle, and 3 interior slip pockets. The name of this pattern was inspired by the American sitcom Three's Company. What's unique about this pattern is that it's been cleverly designed to avoid using any bias binding. Be sure to purchase the pattern before taking this class. The pattern and your supplies can be purchased on our website or request them at your local quilt shop. Please remember to shop local whenever you can. So let's dive into this project. When you're done, you're going to feel very satisfied and accomplished. And don't worry, I will be with you every step of the way.
Before beginning, please review the recommended fabrics on the back of the pattern cover. Also, it may be helpful to label your pieces as you cut them. I've included pre-made labels in the pattern so that way you can keep all your pieces organized and ready to grab. Start by cutting out all of the pieces according to the pattern. If you're using canvas or pull fabric, you'll want to skip to the next section of this video. For all other fabrics, fuse the interfacing to the wrong side of coordinating exterior front pocket and the exterior zipper tabs. Next, fuse interfacing to the wrong side of coordinating side pockets, elastic pocket A, and elastic pocket B, so it's even with the sides and the bottom raw edges. Fuse your fleece to the wrong side of coordinating exterior pocket gusset and exterior zipper extension. With right sides up, layer the exterior front on top of the foam front and align all edges. I recommend to use a temporary adhesive spray to hold the layers together, or you could use pins or clips. Top stitch all 4 sides with an 1/8 inch seam allowance and a stitch length of at least 4 millimeters. I recommend to use a walking foot to help prevent your fabric from shifting. I'm using an accomplish and the narrow foot, so that way I have an even 1/8 inch stitch around all edges. If you aren't using a walking foot like me, another tip is to adjust the presser foot pressure of your machine. So that's the amount of pressure that your presser foot puts on your fabric. So if you lessen that, there's less chance of your fabric from shifting. Be sure to refer to your machine's manual to see if your machine is capable of adjusting the presser foot pressure. Repeat the same process to attach the coordinating foam pieces to the exterior back, exterior main gusset, 2 exterior straps, and then set the other 2 straps aside, and also your exterior flap. Cut the zipper tabs into 8 pieces according to the pattern. Set 4 aside for later. Next, take the 10-inch zipper. If there are no zipper stops, baste the ends of the zipper closed with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. That'll help prevent the pull from sliding off of the tape. You can only stitch over the ends if you're using a nylon coil zipper. If you're using a metal zipper, you'll need the exact size zipper needed for the pattern. Unzip the zipper so the pull is in the center. Place the right side of one tab against the wrong side of the zipper, aligning the short ends. Layer another tab right side down over the zipper, aligning the short ends again. Sew together with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Then you'll repeat the same process for the opposite side of the zipper to attach the remaining 2 tabs. Next, fold each tab away from the zipper and press. The tabs on each side of the zipper should now be wrong sides together, and the zipper should measure according to the pattern. Top stitch the tabs an 1/8 inch from the seam. Then, after sewing, trim each side of the tabs so it's even with the sides of the zipper tape. take the exterior front pocket and mark a horizontal line down from the top edge according to the pattern. Then cut along the line to divide the pocket into 2 pieces. With right sides together, center the zipper along the top edge of the larger exterior front pocket piece. The pull should be on the left side when closed. Pin it in place. Then, with right side down, position one lining zipper pocket piece along the top edge of the pocket and the zipper. Pin or clip together. Use a zipper foot or a narrow foot to sew the layers together along the top edge with 3/8 inch seam allowance. Then fold the pocket and lining away from the zipper so they are wrong sides together. You can press with your iron, or a seam roller is super handy for a quick press next to your sewing machine. After pressing, top stitch an 1/8 inch from the seam. With right sides up, center the pocket over the remaining lining zipper pocket piece along the top edge. Then, with right sides down, center the smaller exterior front pocket piece over the zipper along the top edge. Pin or clip in place. Then sew the layers together with 3/8 inch seam allowance. Next, fold only the smaller piece of the pocket away from the zipper and press. Top stitch an 1/8 inch from the seam. Then sew the sides and bottom edge of the lining and pocket together with an 1/8 inch seam allowance. After sewing, you'll trim the excess lining even with the bottom edge of the pocket. Make sure that the pocket measures according to the pattern. Fuse or baste the fleece front pocket to the assembled front pocket. Next, mark a horizontal line up from the bottom edge of the pocket according to the pattern. Also, fold or measure the pocket in half to mark the top and bottom center. These marks will be used in a later step. Next, position the circle template included with the pattern in each corner of the pocket. You'll trace the outer edge of the template from edge to edge. I'm using a set of Creative Grid circle rulers since I can use these for multiple patterns and other projects. They're super handy and convenient to keep in my sewing room. We have them available on our website, or you can request them at your local fabric shop. Otherwise, you can just use the circle templates included in the pattern. Next, cut along the marked line to round each corner. With right sides together, position a 25 inch or longer double slide zipper along the long edge of the exterior zipper extension. Let the zipper pulls and ends of the zipper extend beyond the sides. The zipper should be closed with both pulls on one end. You can tape or pin the pieces together. Then, with right sides down, layer the lining zipper extension on top of the zipper and the exterior zipper extension. Sew together along the long edge with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Then fold the zipper extension pieces away from the zipper so they are wrong sides together and press. Top stitch an 1/8 inch from the seam. After sewing, you can move the pulls to the center and trim off the excess zipper tape so it's even with the short edges of the extension pieces. With exterior fabrics together, align one short edge of the exterior pocket gusset with one short edge of the assembled zipper extension. Then, with the lining fabrics together, align the short edges of one lining pocket gusset and the same short edge of the zipper extension. Sew together with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. After sewing, fold the pocket gusset pieces away from the zipper so they are wrong sides together and press. Top stitch an 1/8 inch from the seam. After top stitching, you'll repeat the same process to attach the opposite short sides of the pocket gusset pieces to the opposite side of the zipper extension. Sew together with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Top stitch an 1/8 inch from the seam. Fold the assembled pocket gusset in half, matching the side seams to mark the top and bottom center on both the exterior and lining fabrics. With exterior fabrics together, match the center marks on the pocket gusset with the center marks on the assembled exterior front pocket. The zipper side of the gusset should be against the exterior front pocket. Also, match the side seams of the gusset with the horizontal line previously marked. Align the raw edges, then ease in the curves. Use lots of pins or sewing clips to help prevent your fabric from shifting or puckering in the next step. Sew together with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. You can try using a stiletto to help guide the fabric around the curves, and make sure to stop with your needle down and readjust as needed along the curves. If your fabric is curling or the zipper is curling, you can take your scissors and cut small 1/8 inch long snips along the curved edges to help it lay flat. Next, take the 3 lining front pocket pieces. Fold each piece in half to mark the top and bottom center. Then position the circle template included in the pattern in each corner of each piece. Trace the outer edge of the template from edge to edge and cut along the marked line to round each corner. Repeat for the other 2 pieces. Next, with right sides down, layer 1 lining front pocket piece over the exterior front pocket and gusset that's already attached. Align all edges. Use sewing clips to hold in place. Make sure that the gusset and the zipper is pushed inside away from the raw edge. Sew the lining in place with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, leaving about 4 inches unsewn along the bottom edge for turning. A zipper foot or narrow foot will help you maintain your seam allowance around the curves. Also, be conscious of your zipper pulls. You wouldn't want to hit one of those with your needle. You can simply stop and move them out of the way as you sew if needed. Turn the pocket right side out through the unsewn section and hand sew this opening closed. Next, top stitch the pocket an 1/8 inch from the seam. With the exterior side of the pocket face up, layer another lining front pocket piece on top right sides down. Align the center marks and the raw edges of the lining with the raw edges of the gusset. Sew together with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Next, with the right side of the lining face up and the raw side down, layer the remaining lining front pocket on top, right side down. Align the center marks and raw edges of the lining with the raw edges of the gusset. Another tip to make it a little bit easier to align the raw edges is to unzip the zipper completely and tuck that front flap inside away from the raw edges. Make sure to use lots of clips to hold the lining in place. Sew together with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, leaving about 4 inches unsewn along the bottom edge for turning. At this point, the pocket will be very bulky, so try your best to push the bulk towards the center away from the raw edge so it doesn't get caught in the seam. Just take your time, you're almost through the most difficult part of the pattern, then the rest will come together fairly quickly. Turn the pocket right side out through the unsewn section and hand sew the opening closed. You did it, you made it through the most challenging part of the pattern. Awesome job for sticking with it. The rest will come together fairly quickly. On the right side of the exterior front, mark a horizontal line up from the bottom edge according to the pattern. Also mark a vertical line in from each side edge according to the pattern. Then, with right sides up, position the assembled front pocket inside the marked lines on the exterior front. Align the bottom and the sides with those marked lines. Feel free to unzip the zipper and squish down the pocket so that way you can get it secured. You can use double-sided basting tape, fabric glue, or pins to hold it in place. Top stitch the pocket in place along the inside of the gusset with an 1/8 inch seam allowance all the way around. Use a zipper foot to stitch close to the edge and flatten the pocket as you sew. After stitching all the way around, you can set the front pocket aside for later. With wrong sides together, fold each exterior side pocket in half, matching the short edges, and press. You can press with your iron or a seam roller. Top stitch along the top fold with 5/8 inch seam allowance. This will create the casing for the elastic. If you'll notice, the needle plate on your sewing machine will likely have a 5/8 inch guide on it, which you can just follow with the folded edge of your fabric for an even 5/8 inch top stitch. Then you'll top stitch the sides and bottom edge with an 1/8 inch seam allowance, starting and stopping at the previous top stitching. On the bottom edge of each side pocket, mark according to the pattern in from each side edge. You'll want to label the marks A, B, C, and D from left to right. Then, with wrong sides together, match marks A and B. Fold the excess fabric towards the outer edge to create a pleat. You'll repeat with marks C and D. Top stitch the pleats along the bottom edge with an 1/8 inch seam allowance. Attach a safety pin to one piece of elastic and feed the elastic through the casing of one side pocket. Use the safety pin to help push the elastic through. Align the raw edges of the elastic with the raw edges of the pocket. Then top stitch each raw end in place an 1/8 inch from the edge. You'll repeat with the remaining piece of elastic and side pocket. Mark a horizontal line up from the bottom edge of each exterior main gusset according to the pattern. Then, with right sides together, align the raw bottom edge of one side pocket with the line you just marked on one main gusset. The pocket should be below the line. Top stitch the bottom edge of the pocket in place with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. After top stitching, fold the pocket up and press. Top stitch the bottom edge a 1/4 inch from the seam. Then top stitch each side edge an 1/8 inch from the raw edge. You'll repeat for the remaining side pocket and main gusset piece. Position the main gusset template found in the pattern on the top of one exterior main gusset piece, aligning the top and side edges. Trace the top curved edge of the template from side to side, then cut the marked line to adjust the shape of the top edge. You'll repeat with the remaining exterior main gusset piece, mirroring the template horizontally. With right sides together, align all edges of the exterior main gusset panels and sew the bottom edges together with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. After sewing, press the bottom seam open. Top stitch a 1/4 inch from each side of the seam. Then you'll repeat the same process for the lining main gusset panels to add shape and attach them together. Position the strap template included in the pattern on the bottom of each exterior strap piece, aligning the bottom and side edges. Trace the bottom curved edge of the template from side to side. Then cut along the marked line to adjust the shape of the bottom. Take one strap with the foam attached and one without. Place them right sides together and clip together. Sew the pieces together along the sides and bottom curve with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. After sewing, you'll trim the seam allowance to an 1/8 inch wide and repeat to assemble the opposite strap. Turn each strap right side out. Then top stitch an 1/8 inch and 3/8 inch from the sides and bottom curve. You'll repeat for the remaining strap. Take one strap adjuster A and one ladder lock buckle. Pin the top raw edge of the adjuster A 1/2 inch to the wrong side. Then thread the lower raw edge of adjuster A over the upper smooth bar of the ladder buckle. Then bring the raw edges together. Repeat for the remaining strap adjuster A and ladder buckle. Next, mark a horizontal line up from the bottom curved edge of each strap according to your pattern. Center one strap adjuster A on each strap so the top fold of the webbing is even with the marked line. Top stitch the adjuster in place by stitching a square 1/8 inch from the edges and about 1/2 inch from the ladder buckle. Then top stitch an X through the center for reinforcement. Mark a horizontal line down from the top edge of the exterior back according to your pattern. Top stitch an 1/8 inch from each side of the line, then cut along the marked line. Set the shorter piece aside. With right sides up, position the raw edge of one strap adjuster B on each side of the larger exterior back piece up from the bottom edge according to your pattern. You'll top stitch an 1/8 inch from each edge. Make sure to back stitch so the webbing stays in place. Then with right sides up, position one strap in from each side edge of the larger exterior back piece. According to your pattern, align the top raw edges. Make sure that the buckles are face up. Then position the raw edges of the handle just inside each strap. Top stitch a 1/4 inch from the top and make sure to back stitch for reinforcement. With right sides together, center the smaller exterior back piece over the straps and handle along the top edge. Sew the layers together with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Next, press the seam open and top stitch a 1/4 inch from each side of the seam. Make sure to move the straps and handle out of the way as you sew each side of the seam. With right sides up, thread the raw edge of adjuster B over the lower ridged bar of the nearest ladder buckle. Then fold the raw edge a 1/4 inch to the wrong side twice and top stitch. You'll repeat for the remaining strap adjuster B and ladder lock buckle. On the top edge of the exterior flap and lining flap, measure in from each side according to the pattern. Draw a diagonal line between each measurement and the nearest bottom corner. Then you'll top stitch an 1/8 inch inside each line. After top stitching, you'll cut along each line to taper the top. You don't have to top stitch for the lining piece. Position the circle template included in the pattern in each bottom corner of the exterior flap and lining flap. Use the same process as before to round the two bottom corners. Next, take the 25-inch double slide zipper and repeat the same process as before to attach the tabs to each end of the zipper. With right sides together, position the zipper along the sides and bottom edge of the exterior flap. Top stitch the zipper with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Try using a stiletto to help guide the zipper around the curves. With right sides together, layer the lining flap over the exterior flap, aligning all edges and clip together. Then you'll sew together with a 1/4 inch seam allowance along the sides and bottom edge. Make sure to leave the top open. You can snip the zipper along the curves to help it lay flat if needed. Turn the flap right side out, then top stitch an 1/8 inch from the seam. Position the circle template in each top corner of the assembled flap. Trace the outer edge of the template from edge to edge, then cut along the marked line to round each top corner. Prepare the lining elastic pocket A and B using the same process as the side pockets. However, this time mark in from each side edge according to the pattern. After assembling, with right sides up, position the assembled elastic pocket A on top of the lining back, aligning the sides and bottom edge. Sew together with an 1/8 inch seam allowance. With right sides up, position the assembled elastic pocket B on top of the lining front, aligning the sides and bottom edge. Sew together with an 1/8 inch seam allowance. If desired, you can top stitch a vertical line up the center of the pocket, pivot and sew back down to divide it into 2 compartments. Fold the assembled exterior front and exterior back in half to mark the top and bottom center. Position the circle template referenced in the pattern in the bottom corner of the exterior front and back, using the same process as before to round each bottom corner. Then, with right sides together, center the exterior main gusset seam on the bottom edge of the exterior front, aligning the shorter edges of the gusset across the bottom, around the curves, and up the sides. The top edges should be even. Use sewing clips to hold in place. Sew together with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. It's easiest to sew with the exterior front against the bed of the sewing machine. With right sides together, attach the opposite side of the exterior main gusset to the exterior back in the same manner. It's easiest with the back against the bed of the sewing machine to stitch it together. After sewing, you'll leave the assembled exterior wrong side out. Then you'll repeat the same process with the lining main gusset, lining front, and lining back. After sewing the lining together, you'll turn the assembled lining right side out. One tip to help the lining fit better inside the exterior is to start by sewing at the top edge with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Then gradually increase your seam allowance to 3/8 inch as you reach the bottom edge. Then, as you reach the opposite top side, gradually decrease your seam allowance back to a 1/4 inch wide. After sewing, trim the seam allowance to a 1/4 inch wide. Fold the assembled flap in half to mark the top and bottom center. With exterior fabrics together, match the center marks on the flap with the top center marks on the assembled exterior. Match the raw edges of the zipper with the front and sides. Match the top raw edge of the flap with the back. Use sewing clips to hold in place. Sew together with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Unzip the flap zipper all the way. Then, with right sides together, put the lining inside the exterior, aligning the center marks, side seams, and raw edges. Use sewing clips to hold in place. Sew around the entire top edge with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, leaving about 8 inches unsewn on the front for turning. Be conscious of your zipper pulls as you sew. Turn the backpack right side out by pushing the exterior and lining through the top unsewn edge. Then you'll push the lining down into the exterior and turn the raw unsewn edges a 1/4 inch to the wrong side and pin in place. Lastly, you'll top stitch around the top edge with an 1/8 inch seam allowance. You can use your fingers to roll the top seam to make sure the top edge is tight and flat as you top stitch, or you could use pins to hold it in place.
Thanks so much for sewing with me today. I truly hope that you enjoyed sewing this pattern and feel accomplished and proud because you've created an awesome backpack. I hope that you'll cherish this backpack for years to come and get lots of use out of it. Share photos of your completed project using hashtag Sallie Tomato and hashtag Tripper Backpack. We'd love to see how you're using your new backpack. Thanks for watching, and I hope you'll check out the rest of our pattern line for more professional looking projects. See you next time!